Financial reporter Alan Kohler has written for ABC Online today that America is having a break from reality on tariffs and the world will move on to a new order because of them. And Alan Kohler joins us now from Melbourne. Welcome to the program. You wrote today that the American age is coming to an end. What do you mean?
Well, it certainly looks that way. I mean, it's not just the tariffs. It's the way that America is withdrawing itself from global alliances generally and multilateralism. It's pulled itself out of the climate change process. It's putting the alliance with Europe under a cloud. And the tariffs are really upending the whole system of free trade that America itself has been promoting for 80 years. So look, I think this is a big change in the way the world works.
Well, and do we have a sense of then who steps in if in fact America is stepping out?
Well, China would like to, that's for sure. I mean, China probably can't. Look, I don't really know where we're heading to in terms of how the world looks after this. And that's part of the reason the markets are all collapsing and everyone's talking about a recession, is that everything is so uncertain now. Uncertainty is toxic for markets and for business. And so no one really knows where we're heading. In a way, that's the reason that we're likely to have a recession and why we're having markets fall so much.
Donald Trump said if anyone wanted to negotiate, he was willing to listen. And in fact, there have been a bevy of political leaders around the world holding on to a sense of hope that they might be able to negotiate with him. But in the piece that you've written, you've identified 3 reasons why you can't win a tariff war. The first is that it's simply impossible to argue against the mist of fabrication. Tell me where your head was at on this.
Well, so the tariffs that they've proposed, the whole list of tariffs, every country's got its own tariff, and they're meant to be reciprocal against tariffs that those countries are imposing against the United States. And they've basically done it by half. So, for example, and I'll use the example of Botswana, they are saying that Trump is saying that Botswana has a tariff against imports from the United States of 74%, and therefore Botswana now has a tariff of 37% for its exports to America. And that's not true. I mean, Botswana doesn't have a tariff of 74%. How can it possibly negotiate with that? The 74% and basically every tariff that is supposedly charged against the United States is derived from some sort of weird calculation based on the trade deficit. And the whole thing assumes that a trade deficit is bad, and that therefore, and that any trade deficit must be the result either of tariffs or non-tariff barriers. It can't possibly be the result of a competitive advantage, or in Botswana's case, most of the exports from Botswana to America are diamonds, and America has no diamond industry. So if anyone wants to get engaged in America and buy a diamond ring, it has to be imported, obviously, not just from Botswana, but from everywhere. So anyway, the whole thing is ridiculous.
You also made the point that the demands of President Trump won't be confined to trade. You touched on this a bit earlier, and if you might expand, that this is broader than just trade, isn't it? This is about everything.
Well, so the tariffs are based on a declaration of emergency, right? He's using the International Economic Emergency Act that was passed in 1977, which gives the president power to bypass Congress if there's an emergency. And so he's saying that there's tariffs, these tariffs are based on an emergency, and so the Mexican and Canadian tariffs of 25%, which were announced in January, are based on a fentanyl emergency. Got nothing to do with the things that those countries actually export to America or the trade deficit or surplus or whatever. It's got to do with fentanyl, which is truly a problem, no doubt about it. I think it probably is an emergency, but putting 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico have got nothing to do with fentanyl. So he's using that as a negotiating tool to try to force Canada and Mexico to stop the fentanyl crossing the border, which, you know, it just kind of, I suppose it's an indication of the way that Donald Trump thinks, which is that any negotiation is an exercise of bullying, that, you know, that all negotiations are basically about who has the greatest power. And what he's trying to do is to use the power of the American consumer. So every country, basically every country in the world, wants access to American consumers because they're the richest in the world. And he's trying to use his ability, using the Emergency Powers Act, to basically choke off or prevent countries getting access to American consumers in order to attain something else, whatever it might be.
Just finally, Alan, do you get the sense that one of the factors that might be driving Donald Trump is this sense that if you make it difficult for products to come into the United States, that they will just be made in the States itself, even if there isn't a pipeline of industry or, in fact, no diamonds, to reference your point earlier? Well,
look, it's a real blast from the past, this is. I mean, manufacturing has moved on. Manufacturing uses robots now, not people. So the idea that you can have a whole lot of jobs from by building a manufacturing industry is a fantasy. And anyway, do American workers really want to make shirts and underpants now? I mean, let them get made in China. That's fine. America has a big trade surplus in services, not goods. And anyway, every complex manufactured product, such as smartphones or cars, are the result of a very intricate global ecosystem of supply chains, of parts and pieces moving around. Bits get made all over the place. I mean, the whole thing is based on a misunderstanding, really, of how manufacturing in the modern era actually works.
Financial reporter Alan Kohler, appreciate your time this afternoon.
Pleasure.